from Sami's Sweet Life, and today I have my January budget for you guys. I am really excited. We're sticking to a mostly no spend or low spend for the next few months until we move. And we do have a closing date. I want to talk more about house numbers before we get into the January budget. So for house stuff, we're doing our major stuff right now. We're getting our last mortgage documents finalized, and we are actually shopping around. So this is something I definitely recommend you do when you are going to get a mortgage. Definitely shop around. We have bought 2 other houses and we have never shopped around. This is our first time doing it. I have gone between 2 lenders trying to get the best deal, and they have both shown up. They both put their cards on the table and they both offered us really, really good rates. And if we had not gone between 2, we don't know what we would have gotten. We would not have gotten nearly the rate we got now. So we are this close to picking one and locking it in. We're just getting down to like negotiating closing costs, which are totally negotiable. Like, these are things we did not know the first 2 times going into the house. Like, we had an idea of, I'm sure we could get a better rate somewhere else, but we went with whoever the realtor recommended or whoever friend had recommended. We didn't go like look around, do the shopping, negotiate, and this time we are definitely negotiating this time, and it feels really good. Like, I feel like such an adult actually negotiating this, going line by line through the closing costs and talking to both lenders about things and making sure that we feel really comfortable with this big expense. And I feel like before we just kind of rolled with whatever they gave us. We didn't negotiate at all. This time we're really trying to do the right thing and be really careful with our money and make sure that we're getting the best deal possible. And I'm shocked. It hasn't taken a whole lot to get either one of them to give us some really good numbers. So I've been really happy with that. Number 1 advice, shop around for a mortgage. Don't just go with whoever they say go with. So with that said, we are doing 20% down, which is a big chunk out of our savings. And the way you build a house, you have to put down earnest money, similar to when you go to put an offer in on a house, you have to give them earnest money. Well, this is the same kind of thing. You give them earnest money and then you give them a percentage of whatever design studio options you picked. In our case, I think it was like 50% above whatever a certain number was. I don't exactly know what number. We had to put a chunk down for that. We had to put a chunk down for earnest money, and total of that, all of that goes to our 20% down. So we've already put down a nice little chunk, and Johnny didn't realize how much. It's been months and months since we put these deposits down. And so he had no idea that our number that we're seeing for our total closing costs and 20% down is not what we're going to be paying. He just thought it was like basically that number, and it's not. So we're really happy with that. He specifically wasn't expecting, and he's really tight with money. So that gave him a little bit of relief to know that like we have a little bit more money that's going to stay in the bank than he originally anticipated. So he's like on cloud 9 about that. But anyway, I knew the amount. I knew what we had paid down because I put the deposits and I kept track of everything like really closely with the numbers on this house. And so I knew what we're going to expect. And so we're going to be a little frugal for a while, hopefully, to build back up that chunk of savings that we're going to take out for the down payment. So anyway, our closing is in March. It's currently February. So we are just finalizing our last documents. We're going to commit to one of the lenders and get our rate locked in and be done with that part of it and just have to sign our life away come March. So looking at the numbers they're giving us, our mortgage is actually lower than I expected. The rates have gone down. Our homeowner's insurance was lower than I expected it to be. So it's a little bit lower than I expected it to be for our monthly payment, which is great. We definitely have this available in the budget. It's not going to really change a whole lot of our budget numbers, really. And especially once Livy is done with preschool. Like I said in my 2020 budget video, it's going to be more money. Once she's out of preschool, we will be paying more on our mortgage, but we will have way more money in the bank every month because of not paying the preschool. So for a few months, while we still have both rent and mortgage payments and also preschool payments, we're gonna have a couple of rough months starting in March. And then after a couple of months of all of the overlap, it's gonna be really nice and smooth sailing from there. And our payment, it goes up a lot. It's like a really, really hefty car payment. And in our case, like almost 2 car payments. My car payment on my CRV was $300. I rounded up my car payment on my CRV and I always wrote the check for $300, but it was like 2 something, close to 300. So basically it's like, you know, a really, really, really nice car payment or 2 decent car payments. And it's a lot, and I don't take that number lightly, but the difference that we're getting, I feel, is completely, totally worth it. And it's not going to affect our budget in a bad way or anything. We're not going to be really tight for things. We'll basically have the same budget we have now, so it's not a big deal. But the difference in the house quality, this is really the dream home. So it makes a big difference to me to have the house that's you know, the brand new, the one I picked out, all the dreamy stuff is the house I hope to raise my kids in and stay there as long as humanly possible. I think it's a steal of a deal. I don't know, I expected the payment to be more painful than it's going to be. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm talking about this dream home and it's so important to me, and I'm just so thankful that we're getting it, and I don't want to come off like ungrateful for it because I know we're incredibly lucky and incredibly blessed. And I want to tell you guys, like, this will be the nicest house we've ever lived in by far. Basically, I was broke growing up. We were poor growing up. Like, my mom pulled us out of poverty, and so like from where my family started to where we're going to be in this beautiful house, it's totally a dream come true for me, and I don't take it lightly, and I'm very thankful for it. And I'm thankful that Johnny has worked really hard to provide for our family. He went to school for a long time, and he does something that like is so high level, I have no idea what he does. Like, I have some idea of it, and then most of it's just like completely over my head. So he does this really mentally exhausting job to provide for our family, and yes, he loves it completely, and we're very lucky with that. And he also came from just a very strictly middle class family, so we're still what I consider middle class. Like, I'm not saying that, but I just never thought that we would be where we are. And I'm just so thankful that we can afford the difference to get something that I think is like the best house ever. It's like everything I imagined a dream house to be, and I'm still kind of completely shocked that it's worked out the way it has, especially based on all the last house stuff. And I think I mentioned this in the vlog that you will have seen on Friday last week. And I don't know, I'm so stunned and shocked and grateful, and I'm just so thankful we can work it into the budget. And part of that is because we got on a budget to begin with. I think if we had just gone and spent like we spent in Illinois, we would not be where we are today. We really tried to save money. We really started sticking to numbers. I think like 3 years ago, I started putting the budget in place. It has been a game changer for us. I never want to take that for granted. Like, I'm looking at this gorgeous house. I think about like where I came from, and I'm just so incredibly grateful that that's the house we got. And it's not like a mansion by any means or anything, but it is way too big for us. And I think it's a little excessive, and we could definitely have gotten by something else. And I'm just so thankful that we're in a position that we can do that. And I think part of it was definitely blood, sweat, and tears and working really hard. And like growing up, I never would have imagined this being the house that we would get to raise our family in. So it's like a huge moment for me to be able to be here. And I'm trying not to cry. I'm trying not to be too hormonal and emotional. You guys know I'm still breastfeeding. I'm still hormonal. Gosh, it's such a dream come true for me to be where we are and to see the numbers work out. And I've run the numbers so many times because it's a daunting number. It's a daunting mortgage, like I've said before. I'm just so grateful for it. So I don't want you guys to think like when I'm talking numbers, I'm talking house, that I'm not grateful and I'm being super spoiled. And part of it is the whole reason we're getting the house partially is because I really just wanted this, and I had this in my mind my whole life. And Johnny said it, I know I've said this in another video, but he said to people when we were in the design studio, he's like, she's had this house in her mind since she was like 13, and probably even earlier than that. Like, I just always wanted this beautiful, lovely house to raise my family in. I'm so thankful that we're here. It's been a long time coming, and we've been in so many houses. And one of the things I feel so bad about is we've lived in 4 houses since Olivia's been born, and she's going to be 5 years old the end of this month. So 4 houses in 5 years, that sucks. That sucks for her. And I don't want to do that. And that's part of us going to build this house, because we're going to stay put as long as we can, as long as it's humanly possible to stay put. We're going to stay put. And I want this to be the house that they grow up in. I don't want her to remember switching houses every year or so. And I just hate that we've done that to her. We've kept everything else really stable as much as we can. And thankfully, like, she is a totally chill, go with the flow kid. She has not skipped a beat through all the changes, but I feel bad, like, being her parent. Like, I want her to have a home that she knows and she can count on and not have to move every year. And I just hate that we've gone through that. So this is finally like the end point. I finally feel like we're at the finish line of this. And this went into way more like house stuff than I meant to talk about in the budget video. So let's switch gears and talk about the budget. As far as the house itself, it seems like a lot, but it's not even what we pay for her preschool every month. For a long time, we afforded $300 for my car payment. And also the only thing that really changes is we're taking this big chunk out of our savings to pay the down payment. And other than that, our budget numbers aren't going to be that different. So we are going to work on building back up our savings. And right now we're doing a no spend, partially to keep adding to savings before we buy the house, but also partially so we don't have to pack up and move more stuff. It's just kind of a practical thing that right before you buy a house, you don't want to buy a whole lot of new stuff, because it's going to be stuff you have to just pack and move, and it's more chances of things breaking and more work and effort. And so yeah, we're going to keep building up our savings even after we move to try to lessen the blow of this 20% down. I feel like we stuck pretty good to the January no spend. I'll talk about my numbers in the categories, but I did one thing. I sold that Halo bassinet finally. It's been sitting in our living room for months, but I finally sold it in January. I sold it for $170. I felt like that was a really good deal for the person getting it, and I feel like that was a good chunk back for us. So I'm really happy with that amount. I forgot to mention in my 2020 budget, I do have a new line in our budget, and it's for Disney Plus. So that is $7.58 a month. And we also have Hulu, and that's $12.95. So that's all the cable and streaming that we pay for aside from just regular internet. So I think that's pretty good as far as like cable and streaming and things. And we actually use both of those pretty regularly. So I feel okay having that be about 20 bucks. And then there were two big expenses that came out in January. It's the beginning of the year, beginning of the semester, and they're two big expenses for Olivia. So she had her semester supply fee. So we pay 4 figures every month. And then in January and also in the fall, we pay a semester supply fee, which was $400. So not cheap. And then we also paid for her dance through the end of this semester, and that was $405. So $805 in miscellaneous kid expenses for the month of January. And that's a pretty big chunk. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that was a big chunk, but we did okay as far as like our numbers. We did add to savings. I'm looking down at my iPad a lot because I have actual numbers written out. So for groceries, I felt really good with where we were, considering I had purchased the butcher box right at the beginning of the month, and it was very expensive. It was like a bunch of deals that they had. So my butcher box was really expensive this month, and we're gonna have enough meat to take into the new house with us. So it's not a big deal. Let's just eat it as we go. It's all frozen stuff. And so the butcher box was $247.92. And then our whole groceries, including that butcher box, was $520.58. And so the butcher box was basically half of our groceries, and we didn't buy a whole lot otherwise. So the $520 was the total amount in that groceries category, and that means we were under budget by $142.86. I had changed my grocery and household budgets around, so that left $142.86 for the month, which I thought was really good. And then for the household stuff, I ended up adding one baby thing to that list. I had tried to get an automatic bouncer, like, you know, the bouncer you bounce with your foot. She loves the manual one, and I found they had an automatic one. So I had a little bit of a Target gift card, and with that, and then paying the rest, the one item was $34.61, what we actually paid out of pocket. And this was at Target. I put it in that house budget, and it did not work. It did not work good. She didn't like it, so I returned it immediately, and they gave it to me on a gift card. Since I paid the partial on a gift card, they gave me a whole gift card, and I used that on household and grocery expenses. So I kind of cheated. I kind of had this $34 extra for groceries and household and miscellaneous, but I ended up putting in the budget the $34.61 that had come out. So that left $15.39 left in that household budget. And then for me, I was trying to do like hardly any spending. I spent $5.14 on myself, and this was $3 at Target for a Target planner, and then $2.14 for a Project Life app edition. So I think I got like a set of cards or something in the Project Life app. It was $2.14 for that. So I spent a total of $5.14 out of my category, which is awesome. I have $50 in my own category, and generally speaking, I will roll that over from month to month, but not for January. January was a strict no spend, and anything excess from January, we're not going to touch moving forward. It was just adding to the bank account. And then for eating out, we were actually really light for this too, even though we ate out quite a bit. It was $157.14. Usually our budget is for $300, and that includes things like going out with friends, going to play date places, and things like that. So we usually hit the $300, but this month we were really tight with it, and we had $142.86 left out of that $300. And so Olivia's category, it's basically by both kids' category. I have $50 for them for the month, and I spent $44.19, so it left $581 in their category. And then for gifts, I have a line in the budget for just gifts, miscellaneous gifts. I got a couple of little Valentine's things for Johnny and Libby, and I spent $10 out of that category. And then for clothing, I have this as like just a rolling sinking fund type thing. It's about $50 a month, and I went over it. I spent $42.27 on Stella's next size up on clothes, and then $29.29 on shoes for Olivia, and she was desperate need of shoes. She loved these rainbow shoes and they were falling apart. And she had one other pair of shoes that actually fit her and she just desperately needed shoes. So I ended up buying her shoes for $29.29 and that pushed us over in the clothing, and I get clothing when they need clothing. So we'll just work that in. That was the only category we went over on. And I think overall the month was really good. We still added to savings despite those two more expensive kid-related things that we had for the beginning of the semester. She's going to be switching dance places once we move, and she's going to be taking 2 dance classes a week instead of just 1. Okay, the camera cut off. I didn't know where it cut off, so I had to go import the footage, find where I left off, and I'm going to start again. So she is going to take 2 dance classes coming up when we move to the new house. She just has loved dance so much. We really want to encourage whatever it is that she's passionate about, and dance is definitely it. She just dances all the time. So we are signing her up for 2 classes once we move, and it's going to be a monthly payment versus this semester payment. It's going to end up being more expensive overall, but less per month. Like, we won't have these giant semester fee things again, hopefully. But I think that covers it for this budget video. I will link my playlist down below. I've got budget updates and budget videos for the last couple of years. I've just been giving these monthly updates and I really like it. Although I don't always stick to my budget numbers, I like to be able to hold myself accountable to you guys and let you guys see where the numbers fall, and hopefully it encourages you guys to stick to a budget as well. It's just one of those things that has been a total game changer for us. It definitely is part of the reason that we are able to get the new house, because we have been keeping track of things. We know where our money's going, and it's been a really eye-opening experience. First of all, getting a budget a few years back and seeing where our money went and deciding what's important to us. It's not to say we don't frivolously spend, because we do. I bought tons of stuff at Christmas time. I went way off the rails. For the most part, we're not really spendy about a whole lot of things. Like, we really like eating out and doing family stuff, so that is a big portion of our budget. But other than that, we don't buy a whole lot of stuff. So I just really like being accountable to you guys and having these videos for you. I will also link to my budget 2020 video so you guys can catch up and see how we're going to do this year and see all the different category numbers that I talked about. So I hope you guys liked it. Be sure to give me a thumbs up. Let me know how your budget's going so far this year. If you did the no spend, let me know how it went for you guys. I'm going to continue to do like a low spend, no spend February. And that's it. So subscribe so you can follow me along, and I'll catch you next time. Have a great day. Bye.